about a year ago at this time, my mom had a real serious break in her leg. And instantly, and so I'm thinking of also for those of you where suddenly there is a huge crisis event that really changes what your daily life looks like. And I have to say, there was a lot of sitting around, a lot of spending time in hospitals, in rehab, in all of these things.
Mm.
And I would come to the end of a day and I would feel like, oh my goodness, I didn't get my work done. I didn't understanding also the Lord knew what was going to come. And I was actually exactly where I was. And I realized if I kept asking myself, what did you do today? I was asking the wrong question. And
Mm.
thankfully, God was like, what's a better question in this season right now? And the question that really helped me in that season was I consistent with my values today? And that's where I was like, okay, one of my values is when a person I love is in crisis that I show up. So I'm like, okay, massive points there, Amy. You get all the points. Ding, 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 ding.
Yes.
Was I patient when I felt like a doctor wasn't answering the question and I had to keep asking it? Yes. Okay. So that I think asking better questions than just what did I do? Was I consistent with my values today? That has really been helpful for me when I do realize I'm drawn to even the idea of pseudo productivity is something that is visible. And sometimes we're involved with invisible things.
That's the truth.
It's just right. It is just the truth. On any one day, it looked like my mom was making no progress and we were going to be sort of stuck in this limbo phase. So again, thinking of parents with young kids, thinking of parents with special need kids, thinking of someone who is single and really wants to be married. You can feel like, I am not making any progress towards this goal of my
Yeah.
child independently feeding themselves, or I don't want to read that book one more time to this person, or I really want to be married. And there's just certain things we don't control, quote unquote, the productivity of it,
Yeah.
but we can show up faithfully
That's
and do
beautiful.
our part. Yeah.
I really love that question you said, Amy,
Yeah.
about how did I live in line with my values today?
Yeah.
That is such a great question. And it just causes you to look a little deeper than surface. I mean, there's the whole doing, thinking, being. And I think for those of you listeners who find yourself busy in the doing, and it's always what did I do? What did I do? What did I do? What a wonderful way to still look at something that was some doing, but living in line with your values. Really, it's a deeper question. It's just it goes into how, not what, but how did I do what I do? You know, a question we ask every night at dinner is, what is one thing you did to make the world a more beautiful place?
Mm.
And sometimes in our house, it is these really big, obvious, evident things, you know, like yesterday, I was going for a walk in the neighborhood after lunch, real quick, and it was going to be a 15-minute, power walk just to kind of wake me up and get to be outside. And the neighbor's mom passed away. And I said, "How are you doing?" And she goes, "Okay." And I thought, oh, there's something there. And she's like, my mom just died. And so we spent the majority of the walk time there. And so that was an easy, evident one. Like I got to listen. But then there are other ones. Like today, my special needs daughter is home from her day program because she's not
Mm.
feeling well. And so I just canceled some meetings, and it's just been sitting with her and listening to her talk about some things that are bothering her. It doesn't feel as productive. I can be like, I listened to a neighbor talk about her grief. That was solid and productive, and it was helping an adult. For some reason, it feels like more valid sometimes when we're helping adults, which is ridiculous, than when it's our own, children.
Or I was going to say,
But
even
I
someone not in our family. Oh, it's
not
a
in our
neighbor.
family.
So somehow it felt more valid than your daughter or
Yes.
a niece, or yeah, someone in your own family.
You're exactly right. Because sometimes at dinner, when we ask the question, like, one of us well, usually Danny does the cooking at our house because he's phenomenal and I'm not. And so, like, you know, sometimes I'll look at him and be like, I know one thing you did. I mean, you did other things too, but you made dinner and it's so good. So there's things like that. But the values is so cool, Amy, because again, we're looking at the how. How did I do what I did? Because even if we're doing something nice, how did I do that? Did I do that with resentment in my heart? Did I do that with joy?
Mhm.
Did I
Well, and I have to
I
say,
am sitting with
honestly,
that.
I really think the Holy Spirit gave me that question because it was so freeing. It was so
Yeah.
freeing to, because then I was like, I did show up consistent with my values. And even
Yeah.
though on the surface it looked like to me, and again, I think anybody else on the outside of me would have said, "Oh, that was really important." But I didn't feel it was as productive as if I had done X, Y, or Z, or, recorded a podcast or done this or done that.
Right. Where's the box to check?
Right. Right. Which that's where I realized how deep this idea of productivity
Yeah.
is defined too narrowly of this day or this. Because one of the things Cal Newport says is, look, make a 5-year goal, because dentist appointments and other things are going to come up, and that's not bad.
Yeah.
But to say, okay, in your ministry, and I know sometimes for some of you listening, and I used to be this way, you'd roll your eyes at like the 5-year goal because you're living in a context where that may
Right.
not be. Who knows what the economy is going to look like?
Yeah.
Literally, you're just trying to get to the end of the month without.
You're like, I don't even know if my visa is going to get renewed. So,
Right, right. But it is also kind of freeing to say, all right, dream big with God. What
yeah.
could, you're working with street kids. What if you are like within 5 years, you've got a program set up on Fridays that where they're going to have food for the weekend, or you set up a little center where they know, like, just these things that actually are productive. Now, you're not going to get a whole
Mhm.
center set up this week. But Annie also said, like, he had kind of 3 big points in the book. One was do fewer things. And I think that is an invitation for many of us in cross-cultural work, missions, ministry. We get invited to do a lot of different things, and the needs are
Yeah.
kind of endless. So I would even just say, I think that was one of the beautiful models of Jesus. He was clear on what it was he was invited by God to do, that he was invited
Mhm.
to heal some people, but not all. And that's freeing to me to go, I may not be able to help all people, but I can do this thing before me.
Mhm.
And he also said, this has been very helpful to me, is we humans are overly optimistic of how long we think it will take less time to do something than it will actually take. So whatever you're thinking, double it. And that has been very helpful. And I don't often, I'll be like, oh, no, it will actually. And that has just been helpful to do fewer things and be realistic. It's going to take longer to do
Yeah.
these larger productive things that are going to make a difference.
Mhm. Yeah. So like I think about you and me and how we're wired. Don't do so many things. How did you feel when you read those words, Amy, initially?
I felt sad because I love doing all the things.
I wondered. Like what? Life is a buffet. Can't we just try all the things?
And yet I could also
No.
see sometimes when I try to do all the things, or I say too many yeses without like
Mhm.
slowing down and really, is this a yes that God is inviting me into?
Yeah.
When I have gotten myself too busy by saying too many yeses, then I operate, and I'm just going to be honest, with a low grade resentment, and my fuse is much shorter, and I'll
Mhm.
get really annoyed with people. And again, it has nothing to do with them. It's that I
Yeah.
overfilled my plate. And so
Yeah.
doing fewer things and trying to be like, okay, I want to do fewer things that are important.
Yeah.
Back to that tyranny of the urgent, anything in the immediate feels so urgent.
Mhm.
And then sometimes halfway into it, you do realize, actually, this wasn't really what God wanted me to do. Like, God did not mean for me to be running around like a crazy chicken.
Mhm. And
I'm the
that's where I
one
think
that
we
set
go
this
back
up.
to
Yep.
That's where we go back to values, which is what you
Yes.
brought up earlier, I think, and a clear sense of purpose, an assignment in this particular season. You know, there's your calling for life. It's in general what God's called you to do. And then there's your assignment. How has he called me to do that in this season?
Mhm.
And then there's your values. Who am I as I do this? And if we don't have those things clear, we can find ourselves doing things that are not in alignment with our values, that are not in alignment with our current assignment. And that's, I think, when we begin to experience that resentment that you just talked about,
Mhm.
Amy. Like, how did I get myself into this? Well, because it sounded interesting and you were curious about it and it sounded fun, and why not? And let's try it. Not that there can't be any of that in life, but when it becomes a regular part of life, it really takes away from who it is that God's called us to be.
Hey, missionary friends, we are so glad you joined us today. Make sure to subscribe to our channel so you'll be the first to know when a new episode drops. And click like and comment below. We love hearing what's resonating with you and what you'd like to hear more of.